Chris Young sitting down in the broadcast booth to our left here as we continue live in Surprise, Arizona. Our coverage is brought to you by our friends at ASCO Equipment, your heavy equipment partner since 1960, and by the On-Time Experts Air Conditioning and Plumbing, same-day service guaranteed. And here he is, Rangers General Manager. Congrats on putting this thing back together, and thanks for having us here in Surprise.
Yeah, guys, thanks for being out here.
Well, it's fun. Had a nice little threat there in the fourth inning. How do you take these kind of games in? It's early spring training. I mean, I'm having fun watching it. What's the professional perspective on an afternoon like this?
First and foremost, you want to see our guys getting their work in, getting their timing, their reps in, and coming out injury-free. That's the most important part. We've got really talented players, and if we come out of camp in a good spot from a health standpoint, I'm confident we'll get off to a good start. So that's the number one thing. Secondly, making sure that they are indeed getting the reps they need, the timing for the pitchers, the number of innings, number of pitches, the build-up, and for the hitters, just the same thing, the reps. So you always want to win games. You always want to play well. You want to see your guys do really, really well. But it is long spring, and we have a veteran team. So, if they ease into it a little bit, and by the end of camp, we'll be ready to go.
We just got to see our first automatic ball strike challenge. What do you think of that so far?
It's entertaining, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fun to see. I mean, where I'm watching a suite over, we have computers in there, and I immediately know whether it's a ball or strike. So I was hopeful Corey wouldn't challenge there, but
don't do it.
But it's kind of cool to see. I'm glad our guys are taking advantage of it. I'm glad our guys are engaged and using it and learning, and they can give Major League Baseball feedback. I commend Major League Baseball for really studying this and trying to improve the game, and this is how you do it. And our guys have been utilizing it, and it's fun to watch.
Will it eventually get to a point where the cameras and the computer call everything instantly, or do you think we'll always have an umpire back there?
That's a great question. I don't know enough about the updated technology and exactly if it's ready to be implemented full-time, and I'm not sure if that's exactly what we want as a game. Umpires are a fun component of watching baseball and seeing the way these guys call games. Umpiring, their job right now is harder than ever, too. I mean, these guys, the game is bigger, faster, stronger. There's more velocity in the game, more movement, more pitch shapes. And believe it or not, the umpiring has gotten better, even in spite of the improvements and how hard it is to call balls and strikes these days.
See, why one thing we were talking about earlier is the depth that you've built here on this ball club, and obviously it was unfortunate. It seemed like every week we're talking about the injuries.
Yeah.
But when not only with the lineup, but the rotation, how good are you feeling about the depth of this 2025 club?
Well, the reality is that's one of the areas that I always worry about. I just feel like we can never be deep enough, and good teams are extremely deep beyond their 40-man roster, that they're deep, 40, 50 players into their organization, and the reality is that we likely will need that at some point during the season. And last year, we did thin out with injuries and some underperformance, and we just didn't have enough guys step in and perform at a level that was going to keep us above water. So this year, we really made a concerted effort to address the depth. We feel like some of our young guys have taken big steps in terms of providing the internal depth that we may need, and externally we've brought in a number of NRIs that we feel like are veteran players who are competing for spots or can go to AAA and provide even more depth.
And you improved the the everyday lineup as well. How did you look at last year and decide this isn't just a down year, but we need to improve?
Well, every year you have to evaluate and be honest with yourself. And, we went into the offseason and we said we can run the same lineup and same team back out and hope that it goes well, or we can try to make upgrades and improvements and have some level of certainty that we're going to have a better team on the field. And that was the approach we decided to take. And, we added Kyle Higashioka. Was our first move of the offseason, winning player. He's been on playoff teams every year of his career, with the exception of 1 year. And we felt like he also made our pitching staff better. He's a real winning presence behind the plate who invests in the pitchers, and somebody that can partner with Jonah and really push us forward from a catching standpoint and an offensive standpoint. And then trading for Jake Berger and signing Jock Peterson, two guys that we felt were exactly what we needed for our lineup, complement the group we have, and improve some of the areas that we weren't necessarily strong last year. So two significant additions offensively with Berger and Peterson. And the reality is, when we won in 2023, we were a very, very good offensive team, and we need to get back to that. Last year, we were not, and we have to get back to scoring a lot of runs.
What did you see from Kamar Rocker in his first start the other day, and what's the plan for him?
Well, the plan's still, we're still kind of working through that, and some of that will be determined by what the organizational needs are. How are we going to look coming out of camp? Do we have 5 healthy pitchers in the rotation? Is Kamar one of those? Is Jack Leiter one of those? It's hard to predict what the next 30 days will look like, so we've got a lot to figure out. And then there's, their performances for Jack, Kamar, and others will also determine that. So, for Jack and Kamar, they both had really good, Jack especially had a really good first outing, looked very, very good, was sharp. Kamar, the stuff was really good. The velocity was good. He didn't have a feel for his breaking ball. I can relate to that. I had enough Arizona spring trainings that it's dry, and the breaking ball doesn't spin the way you expect it to your first few times, and eventually you get the hang of it. So, and it's his first big league spring training too. So there's a learning curve here. The intensity, the pace, the reps, the familiarity with all the people here. There's a learning curve. So his first outing, the results weren't great. The stuff was there. And my guess is his next outing, he's going to look better.
What's your view on the closing situation right now?
Well, I think right now we're going into it with a little bit of a closer by committee approach. This is something we've done well the last couple of years. We really did it well in the playoffs in 2023 of looking at matchups and data to help govern our decision making with which pitchers are used in which situations, and try to put these guys in the best positions, the best pocket in the lineup for them to face. And if there's a group of lefties coming up, we might want to put the 2 or 3 guys in that do the best against lefties. And if there's righties or the bottom of the order, whatever it may be, lining up what really the objective information can tell us to put these guys in the best position to succeed. But my guess is that over the course of the year, 1 or 2 guys will really solidify themselves as our best back-end options. And we feel like we've got a number of players who can do that. And Chris Martin, Garcia, who we traded for from Washington, and Sean Armstrong has leverage experience. And then we've got some young arms too that may pitch their way into those situations throughout the year.
It's Chris Young here with you on the GBAG Nation 105.3 The Fan. I've asked a lot of people, like, hey, how good of a job has Chris Young done putting this thing back together? And they all love it. Did a hell of a job. But they do come back to the bullpen, and I'm wondering, like, when can you start seeing if this is coming together? Can you evaluate that here, or do you need real games?
Some of it can be evaluated here. Now here we have another challenge. Let's see. Did Carter challenge that or the catcher? All right.
It's so quick.
It is fast.
Really doesn't delay the game, does it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the number one annoying thing about replay, I think, in football and basketball is just how long it takes. But this is great.
Mm-hmm. It's very fast. I think there's an entertainment value for the fans and for the players too. It may be a little embarrassing for the umpire if enough calls are overturned, but it is entertaining. But back to your question, yeah, we can start to evaluate some of that here, just with the way the pitchers look, the stuff, the metrics, and we have an idea of where they are compared to maybe what we've seen in the past or what the best version of a respective player is. But the reality is that as we got into the offseason, we had a number of areas that we needed to address. We needed to address our starting pitching, we needed to address our bullpen, and we needed to improve our lineup. And there are constraints financially as to, I wish we had unlimited funds. We don't. Ownership has been tremendous in giving us the support and the resources we need to build a winning team. And so we strategically decided that by making the moves we did in the rotation, upgrading the offense with the players we traded and signed offensively, and then doing a number of I'd call them under the radar signings in the bullpen that are really, really kind of floor raisers that stabilize and make the bullpen maybe better than what it's been last year, but not necessarily big names that you would recognize that say, hey, this is a lights out closer. And over the course of the season, it's our job to continue to look at our needs and determine, are there ways that we can continue to improve. And I think you saw last year we were buyers at the deadline despite being out of it, or at least not in first place. And 2 years ago, we made significant acquisitions at the deadline, even before the deadline, and acquiring Aroldis Chapman to come in and stabilize the bullpen. So we will never stop. Our fans deserve a winning team, and we're going to continue to turn over every stone we can to upgrade this roster throughout the year. The April 1st or opening day roster will not be the playoff roster, so to speak.
Are you working on anything right now?
Well, just getting these guys ready for spring training for the season and having a healthy spring. But this is actually kind of a fun time for me. I get to sit back and really just see the coaching staff and the players go to work, and our heavy lifting has been done in the offseason, but we have our scouts deployed throughout the league and work in constant communication with other teams. And if there is something that lines up, then we'll be in a position to be active.
You obviously have a unique perception because you were a player and then now obviously in the front office. When you see like what the Dodgers are doing, and we'll talk to other baseball fans, they're like, bleep them, how the heck can they sign everybody? This is ridiculous. Do you see a benefit in a salary cap one day potentially?
I haven't studied it through enough other lenses. I think what's most important is what the fans feel. This game is about the fans. I always say the fans are the most important constituency in the game. And we're ultimately all here because fans want to pay money to come see our product. And so I think ultimately they're the ones that should really determine that and govern that. And I don't have a say. I think by and large our fans are happy. I think that we've had 3 payrolls that have been the highest payrolls in the history of the Texas Rangers over the last 3 years, this year included. And it speaks to the commitment our ownership has made to our fan base, to our organization, to our players, to put a winning team on the field. I'm extremely grateful for that. And I look around at other teams that maybe don't have the financial resources that we have. So I truly can't complain because we have been maybe a top 5 or 7 payroll over the last several years. And, I think that in our market size, we should be at that level every year.
I love it. Chris Young here with you on the Fan.
Speaking of the fans, we all just soaked in the NHL Four Nations All-Star festivities, and that was a pretty fun experience. Do you think the MLB would benefit from maybe taking a page out of that book for All-Star Week?
Well, yes, I do. I think what the NHL did was really entertaining, and I thought they brought a lot of passion back to the game in terms of a week that normally – with the All-Star festivities and frankly, the All-Star game in NHL is not overly entertaining, in my opinion, just given that players, don't want to get hurt and they kind of go through the motions. And you're not seeing the best in the world on display necessarily at the highest intensity level in those games. And what we saw in that format, to me, was awesome. I mean, it was incredible. And I think that, yes, as a league, we should absolutely explore any way to put our players on display in formats that are extremely entertaining to fans. We've got a great product in Major League Baseball. I think these players are better than ever, more talented than ever. And any way we can continue to pique interest with the fans in terms of formats like that, I fully support.
You might have noticed the fans are pretty disappointed with the local basketball team, CY. And, I just wanted to ask you.
There we go, Jake.
Nice.
First one.
That's what you paid for right there.
That's
Burger
right.
bomb. You knew that one off the bat.
Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
3-zip Rangers.
His last 2 exit velos were he grounded out twice at 108, 110. So he's hit the ball hard twice and just got that one elevated. So that's what we look forward to seeing a lot of this year, guys. He's and just a tremendous person. I mean, I think you all saw what he meant to our community when he came in and kind of announced his number change and the reason behind it, and supporting his daughter who has Down syndrome and the number 21 and the chromosome for Down syndrome. So he really is just a winning person. I'm so excited to have him. I've enjoyed getting to know him, and this is just a guy who's hungry and wants to win. And I'm hoping we're seeing about 40 more of those this year.
I was going to ask you if you could tell if it's a home run by the sound.
It
seemed like you could that time.
When you've given up as many as I gave up in the course of my career, I know the sound instantly. So yes, I knew the sound right there. And even on a windy day, he got that out of here pretty easily. So that was an impressive homer.
So philosophy on managing a superstar, do you let him do whatever he wants just for the talent, or do you no, you got to conform to our culture? What's CY's view on that?
Everybody has to be a culture fit for us. I mean, it's very important, and they're we're selective with who we want to bring into the organization, because ultimately I truly believe that this is a team sport, and chemistry is vital to the success of the team, and so we are selective. That said, I think that people are a product of their environment, and we try to create an environment that people want to be a part of and brings out the best in them, and we let them be themselves. We want them to have the freedom to be their own personality and to express themselves in the way they want, but also within the guardrails of what our values are as an organization. And we've got a tremendous group of guys, and I think the 2023 season really highlighted that. I think this team is equally as good in terms of the talent, but also the people. And my hope is the chemistry and culture comes together in a way that will allow us to do great things.
How many DeGrom starts can we pencil him in for?
Well, my hope is, we'll work backwards and say hopefully 6 or 7 playoff starts, and then and then another 25 plus in the regular season. And speaking of, I'm so excited for our fans to get to see Jacob this year. I've seen him throw 3 or 4 times this spring up close, and every time I get near him, I'm just so amazed and mesmerized with how talented he is. Our fans truly haven't seen it to the level that they're about to, at least I hope. And it's pretty impressive to see the best in the world up close every 5th day. And my hope is our fans get at least 25, maybe 30 opportunities to do that this year.
Well, we feel the same way about watching you work, man. One of the best teams in baseball.
Do not put me on Jacob or Corey or any of these superstars level. These guys, they're really remarkable at what they do. I was going to say earlier, most players get better with time, and I get worse. As I watch these guys on a daily basis, I just look out and say, I don't know how I ever did this and competed with these talented players. It's remarkable. It excites me so much for our season, for our fans. I think we have great things ahead, and I can't wait to get started. I just want to make it through the end of spring healthy.
I mean, you're so competitive, right? I think that's what fans appreciate.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Okay.
It's a blessing for us as fans.
It is.
Because we don't always know, especially locally, unfortunately, how aggressive and competitive the other markets are.
Sure.
So I know I can go to bed as a Rangers fan knowing that you're doing everything possible to make sure the team's as good as possible.
Well, guys, I grew up here. I grew up a Ranger fan. I got to play for the Rangers. Get down. I got to play for the Rangers. This organization has shaped my love of the game in a lot of ways. And, knowing what the organization meant to me, when I took the job 5 years ago or 4 years ago, I went to Dick's Sporting Goods. It was December, a couple weeks before Christmas, and we wanted to surprise our children by giving them Ranger hats or shirts to say we're taking this job. And we went into Dick's, and there was almost no Ranger section. And it really saddened me as somebody who has a civic pride, being from DFW, that our kids weren't growing up proud of their hometown team. And I said, we have to change this. We have to change this. Our fans deserve a winning team. The next generation of Ranger fans deserve to see what excellence looks like. And that's been my commitment. And we're not always going to accomplish that. Last year, showed that. But I can promise you're going to get a commitment and an effort year in, year out for us to put a winning team on the field, and a team that our fans can be proud of. And that's my goal. It's a civic responsibility in my mind. It fires me up every day to come to work and try to provide that for our fans. And I'm excited for this season for that reason.
We'll go give them hell. We'll be pulling for you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Great seeing you all.
Hey,
You're the man.
Yeah, thank you, guys.